Today we're going to be replacing the PTO seal on this LX3310. Yeah, the problem was self-induced. In other words, it was my fault, but it's easy to do on these tractors. I'm going to show you how to fix it, and then I'm going to show you how I did it. Let's get started. Yeah, I was pretty sick when I first saw the oil dripping out of this. I was afraid I had caused a major PTO problem. So, you know, I had $26, $28, $3,000 in mind and thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on? I called my Kubota dealer, my local Kubota dealer here, and explained that I was pretty sure the seal was bad after I looked at it a little bit more. You know, asked him how difficult it was to replace, how expensive it was. He says, it's a little over $8. Yeah, $8. And he says you can just pop it in and out from the backside. As Cameron said the other day, Yahtzee. I mean, this really is, well, much less expensive than what I was expecting. Now, what he said to do was just take a screwdriver and drive in this old one. I'm trying to do it at such an angle that you guys can see what's going on. Okay, I'm in there. And he said I could just pry it out that way. Zoom in on it, okay? Yep, oh, look at that. It already came out, and it's already running oil. Now, he suggested, naturally I ignored, he suggested that I drain out 1 gallon of oil before I did this. Having a little trouble getting the actual seal out. There's one spring left on there. That little spring is a part of the new seal. I've already seen that. I'm gonna get a towel now and wipe that out. Having that oil running out of there is probably not a bad plan anyway. It kind of keeps it clean from anything running in. I don't know. That's a non-mechanic speaking. I probably should have drained it like they said. I didn't need to drain it all the way. He said really just a gallon or so is all that was necessary. Christy asked if it would stop. And I said, well, yeah, it'll stop when it gets low enough that there's no more oil to run out, or I get the new seal in, whichever comes first. He said put a little grease. He actually said silicone. On this seal, I'll probably get bad comments. I'll probably using the wrong type of grease. But I'll put just a little bit on that. Honestly, I don't think it really matters, but that's my personal opinion. Probably a good time for me to show you my Lube Shuttle. I haven't talked about it in a long time, but this is my favorite grease gun, my favorite grease system. This thing comes apart. Let me set this seal down. This thing comes apart and works differently than any other gun on the marketplace, at least in the US. Notice that steel piece just came off on its own. This right here, the tube is, you can put it on again. You can put different types of grease in. This is the MOS2. I actually recommend now the LI400. It's a newer grease. So these use different tubes than what you're used to. There's no plunger, right? Nothing sticking through the grease that's going to allow it to leak out the bottom end. So it truly is a no-mess grease gun. You can put that on there. You can push up just a little bit. They recommend, I'll take it off again, they recommend pushing the grease up with your thumb or with a screwdriver, whatever, so that it sticks out just a little bit like that, and that'll make it a little easier to prime. But these things aren't difficult to prime under hardly any circumstances. I don't think I've ever had any issue. The tubes are a little bit more expensive at present. If you're using 1,000 tubes a year, you probably should look at a different solution. But if you're like me, use just a few tubes a year, this is so much easier because you just don't have that leak out the bottom, right? It's an incredible solution. A lot of viewers have bought this gun. I've just heard rave reviews from it. lube-shuttle.us/store. Get a 5% discount with code TTWT. Check it out. Now on that gun, I don't recommend at present their locking coupler system. I recommend instead to use the lock and lube. It requires an adapter. You can find that adapter on my Amazon store from metric to English. but then you can use the Lock and Lube. I really like the Lock and Lube, it's well worth it. Okay, I've talked long enough here that most of this has drained out. Looks pretty clean in there to me. I'm gonna see if I can slide this right on. Start by using my fingers. Okay, it's not fully in there yet. My dealer suggested using a piece of pipe. I've just got a little piece of PVC. Mine's 1.5 inches. I really wish it were a little bit bigger. 1.5 inches is a little bit too small, so rather than just going even, I'm tapping just a little bit at a time so I can offset the pipe a little bit. I think if I had 2-inch pipe, it would be a lot better, but this is still working. Being real gentle with this, you can tell that I'm not hitting it very hard. Oh, look at that. PVC dust on the outside here from where I made the cut. Swipe it off. I just want to get it as dry and clean as I can get it in there now to see for sure that I've stopped the leak. Now that was easy. I worried much too long about this. Literally, I thought it was going to be multiple thousands of dollars to get this fixed. It'll be the $8 and something for the part, and then the replacement oil at what, $20, $25 a gallon, whatever it is now. That's not bad at all. So let's talk about how I broke it. A lot of you are saying, I bet he broke that on that flex swing mower. Nope, I didn't. Now I could have, but I didn't. The problem occurred when I connected it to this Hardy front mount mower. You saw in a recent episode, we went to mow right along Gene's driveway, and we used this for just a minute or two. We just ran right along the driveway. He decided that the approach that I was using with this tractor was a little bit too aggressive. It was taking too much of the brush out, and it left it kind of scraggly. So he decided he wanted to use the Ventrac with the boom mower instead. In that couple of minutes, when we were just doing that little test run at Gene's, that's when I broke it. In anticipation of going to Gene's, I wanted to put this front-mounted mower on the Kubota. I've already shown it on the 2038R, and so I wanted to show it to you guys on the LX3310. It should be the perfect size as long as I've got fluid in the rear tires. It should be heavy enough. It's a fine machine for the mower, or at least I thought. So I spent it, as it turns out, it took me over 2 hours to get this thing attached. This pump, you might notice, is pretty large, okay? As you saw with the Rhino TS10 episode, we don't have much space in here. And so it turned out that I had a lot of limitations to work with. First thing I tried to do was to just put this on directly. See if I can twist it. This thing is heavy. These hoses are tight and they don't flex very well. And then when I do that, I actually break them loose, which means they'll leak until I tighten them. I'll show you a little bit of the construction of how this pump works. They sent this little extension shaft, okay? This is just a female to male extension, and the pump actually comes with a female spline that goes all the way through. So this just sticks right up in there. I could probably show you on the back side here. If you wanted to run the pump backwards, you could do that. I don't know if it would work, but you could. So that's the way this thing is constructed. And the way I ran it on the 2038R, the pump's back here. I just pulled this back, slid it on the shaft like normal. At this point, I think this video is going to turn out to be pretty instructive about how to connect a PTO shaft. I had more trouble getting this connected up than about any other PTO shaft, any other combination that I've dealt with. Had to do with how stiff these hoses are, how heavy this pump is, and how difficult this is to pull back. So as we continue in this, I think I'll show you some of those techniques that I used to finally get it connected. Now, one challenge I had was this was so heavy to push on, while this is extremely heavy spring-loaded here. I came up with a plan to hold this back. I'm going to ask Vanna here behind the camera, or Christy. What I did was I got a 5/16 nut and I pulled this back. Even that's hard, right? I mean, to think that you have to pull that back and hold it one-handed while you push another on. It's all I can do even to show you this. But I got a 5/16 nut. I'm gonna have to push down against something. And I actually put that 5/16 nut in there to brace that. I'll do it here again. I found a spot I can do it. So I pull this down, and there's a snap ring there above it, and so I just stick that little nut in there. But I actually did this while it was on the end of the pump, and that holds that back. And then once I got this attached, I was able to pull this back a little bit, and the nut falls out on its own. So that's how I was able to hold this particular ring back. I do want to share that I didn't know this shaft would actually come out of here. I thought there was probably a set screw or something holding it in. There is not, that I can see, and was not, so I don't think I broke anything. So I assumed this was kind of all tight together and that I had to put this all on at one time. So that's the way I'm going to show you now, or at least attempt to show you now. Again, this is very heavy. It doesn't twist very easy. Now the first trick when dealing with PTO shafts is you don't have to worry about sliding that ring back until you get the splines aligned. You can actually go onward maybe 1/2 inch before you need that sleeve slid backwards. But this weighs, the pump may not be that heavy, but by the time I'm pushing against those hoses, it's pretty heavy. Now I've started to push it on here. I don't have the shaft nearly all the way. In fact, you can't see it, but there's at least an inch or 1.5 inches that I need to go in, and I'm hitting right here, okay? I cannot go on any further. Oh, the pump is actually hitting this mechanism right here. I studied this for a long time, and I couldn't figure out a way to make this fit like this. So I had to give up and take this off. But you know me, I'm pretty determined. And when I started to take that off, the very same thing happened. The shaft stayed on there, and that's when I realized, oh my goodness, this does separate, so I've got some flexibility here. So I decided to just put this shaft on, and since I had no pump on it, I was able to hold back the ring and get the shaft on. I will say, that sleeve there is unnecessarily hard to pull. That spring is just too heavy. The manufacturer didn't need to do that. Whoever built this thing in China didn't need to have that tight a spring. Now I've just gone through the problem of needing to extend this PTO shaft, right? If you've been watching our videos, you saw that for the TS10, I needed to extend the shaft. And the way I chose to do that was this PTO link. By the way, you can get the PTO link at tractorptolink.com. Use code TTWT for a discount. I don't necessarily think this is the end-all solution for all things PTO, but it does have a couple of advantages. One advantage is that you don't have to do that, pull the ring back while you're pushing forward, because all of that action takes place before you ever use this thing. Let me describe how it works a little bit. This is what this part goes on the tractor, this on the attachment. You have to bring these together. You still have to line up, but you can actually see where those holes are. And then you put it together, and you have to rotate one or the other until this can line up. And then there's a pin that goes through the bottom hole. I'll not show you the pin right here because it's extraneous to what I'm trying to show you, but this is how it goes together. It does lengthen your PTO shaft. That's usually a disadvantage because you'll have to shorten the shaft on your attachment, but that's the whole purpose of what we're doing today. Now, I showed this on the TS10, and within a day or two, the folks at PTO Link, who I didn't have a relationship with at the time, called me and said, hold it, Tim, you need to be very careful. The PTO Link supports those ASABE standards that you've been talking about, but it does not work with these stubby PTO shaft of the B tractors, LX tractors, or BX tractors from Kubota. So they said, you're lucky you didn't tear up your PTO seal because this is gonna potentially damage it. And then I look here, and sure enough, I see that where I ran it that little bit, I had scuffed some of the sticker off here on the side. So I could have easily torn up the PTO seal using it on the TS10. So I remembered that, and so I'm not gonna put this next to the tractor. I'll use this other extension. I keep banging my hat there. I'll use this other extension against the tractor, and then I'll put this piece on that extension. Again, line up the spline first, then pull the sleeve back, and this one pulls much easier. And so there's the PTO link. Then I'll take this piece and I'll insert it. I'll show you on the top side here, but I'm going to insert it right in here, right on the front side, but you'll get the point. So it'll go right up through here, right? And then I'm going to bring this up. Again, see how tight this is to deal with. And I just have that quarter turn there. It's not a quarter turn, eighth of a turn maybe, to make that connect. In this case, that was much easier to connect. I cannot argue with that. So I take this pin, find the hole just opposite of the other pin, put it in. They said to put the pin in from the back side. That way it'll be easier to trip there. I'm not going to put it in right now because I'm going to take it apart again to show you some things. So with this contraption, there is indeed space. Okay, I've got the original PTO extension, and then I've got this PTO link on behind that. There is indeed space, and I decided I was good to go. I'm not sure when I bent this, but it had to do with when I had it chained up here, and you know, maybe the chain was too, I don't know, maybe the chain was too tight, I'm not sure, but it's unrelated to this particular problem. You have to have this attached to keep the pump from trying to spin wildly because it's got nothing else to hold it. So we chain it here, somewhere on this side, because it's wanting to spin this way, see? So I decided I was good to go, and we went mowing. I still haven't told you what the problem is. I'll get to that now. I'll take it off the PTO link first if I can. How off is this way, it says. There it goes. And there's the PTO link comes out. Now remember, the PTO link guys told me that if I ran this against the tractor, that it would tear up that PTO seal just because of the short stubby shaft. So I'm wise enough there, right? But apparently I'm not a very free thinker in another way, because this shaft had exactly the same problem. That stubby PTO shaft allowed this to go on too much, and this is what destroyed my PTO seal. So now I have found 3 PTO attachments. One is the PTO link, one is this, which came with the Hardy mower to connect it, and the third is the TS10 shaft directly that will not connect to this LX3310 PTO shaft because it's too stubby, and in some cases because it's too tight in here. For the TS10, you can go back and look at that video. I go through the 4 reasons why I couldn't connect it, and then in a subsequent video I showed working around it. So let's get back to the good news. The good news is it cost me, what, time I count oil and everything, probably $30 to fix this. That is the good news. The bad news is I'm having trouble attaching several attachments to the stubby PTO shaft to the tight space here. This particular PTO seal, the exact one I showed, works on all the big B tractors. That would be the B2650, B3350, the LX tractors as well, and even goes back further than that. This same seal hasn't changed in a long time. So if you're using any of those tractors and you want to see how to replace the seal or even understand why it's leaking, this video should be helpful. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It's not my intent to badmouth this tractor. It's becoming clear to me that this machine is not suitable for a lot of the attachments that I want to use, and hopefully that's useful information to you. But if you never use the PTO, or if you only use certain small attachments that are relatively simple, you'll not have any trouble with this. You know, it's been around for years and years. It's just not suitable for a lot of my applications. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.